Hello everybody, it's me, producer Ross, and welcome to another edition of my Ipswich Town Football Club. And today I'm joined by good old Graham from the Naked Football Show, aka GB. How you been doing during this, situation we've been in, the pandemic? We don't want to talk about it too much, but it's good to have you on. And how you been doing?
To be honest, I'd rather not talk about it at all, Ross. It's been awful, hasn't it, for all of us? Whenever you wake up in the morning and think, oh, God, I can't go to the pub, I can't do this, the shops are shut, I can't even go for a walk, or you can just about go for a walk. And then you think, well, when you start feeling sorry for yourself, you realise everyone else is in the same boat. I catch myself thinking, I might get on a plane and go somewhere warm. And then you think you can't. Or if you do, you're going to have to probably isolate for 2 weeks. And, it's shocking, isn't it? Hopefully we'll never see anything like this again. My granddad, this is way, way back. I'll tell you, it was actually 62. So I was quite young then. And he insisted we go to football. I wasn't even interested in football. Didn't even know what shape of football was, really. And it was a Friday night and it was dark and drizzly. And he said, I'm going to take you to Portman Road to watch a game. And I thought, oh. And my brother was with me as well. We were both sort of quite sulking thing. I don't know why am I walking out in the middle of the night in the cold and the wet when I could be playing. And then we got to the ground. In the old, what was the East Stand, it's now the Portman Stand, of course. The East Stand then went to the Speedway Stadium and then consequently blew off in a gale and disappeared. But anyway, that's another story. But and then we walked up these steps, and of course we were late, as usual, only in fact 5 minutes late. So the crowd were already there, the lights were on, the colours of the players, the noise, the atmosphere, and the smells of like the hot dogs, and I was hooked. That was it. It only took me a couple of seconds, and I thought, wow. Of course, all the town is dark, no lights at all, and you suddenly come up across this green stage with all these pretty colours. The colours being blue and white, obviously, of Ipswich, and red and white stripes of Sheffield United. So, just amazing. That was what hooked me, and that was it. I wanted to go every week from then on. As I say, it was Sheffield United because I remember the red and white stripes, and I remember the result. It was 1-0. We scored in the Churchman's End, as it was called then, and it was Ted Phillips who scored. And they were my memories of it, because I think my granddad told me the guy who scored and all that, because I didn't know the names. But I have since checked that I was correct, that he was correct, and it was, yeah. And it was on a Friday night, which is quite unusual for a game in those days, yeah. Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I think Kevin Beattie, simply because he was, simply the best, as the old song goes. And also because he was such a nice guy, those people who met him, and he would travel, long after he retired, he would travel with the fans to watch the games, and he was always up for a laugh. But what a player, just like a truck, wasn't he? Just plough his way through people. And he's probably the best player. I think favourite players, it's difficult. I think the most skillful player was Franz Tyson. The only guy that could literally walk around the pitch and lose players just like that and step over and walk away again. And yeah, he's he had the speed of Jonathan Douglas, but slightly more skill.
I'd never expect Jonathan Douglas and Franz Tyson together. That is probably the only time that happened.
That's totally unfair, to be honest. Yeah. He was faster than Jonathan Douglas, but no, I think he was the most skillful player I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Then you've got the players that everyone loves, your Mickey Stockwells when you go back that far. Matt Holland, of course, those players that show, they're the players the fans want to see representing their club. They're, 100% men, doesn't matter, even if they're not the best on the pitch, they'll give you 100%. They're the sort of players as well. So it's quite a lot, but I think Kevin Beattie was probably my all-time favourite.
Let's get into your favourite game you've watched. I'm sure you've seen a lot of games, but it's hard to just pick one. But have you got a few to select?
You keep prefixing every question with, I'm sure you've seen a lot. I feel old by the minute. I'm about 120.
I'm sorry. Last time, I promise.
No, that's fine, Ross. I know, I understand. My favourite game was St Etienne away in the UEFA Cup, because I think it's the best away performance I've seen from town, certainly in Europe. And it had it was another thing that sort of attracted me to it was because my brother was actually based in St Etienne. He did his French degree there, and because he was quite a good goalkeeper, he actually managed to get himself on the books of St Etienne. And in fact, going on a slight tangent. When St Etienne reached the European Cup final, as it used to be called then, and they played, can't remember, I think it was a German side, it might have been Bayern Munich, but they played at Hampden Park, and the first team goalkeeper was injured and the reserve goalkeeper was injured, and he was like third choice, and both were injured coming up to that game, and he thought he was going to end up playing a European Cup final. Fortunately for him, because he said I'd have just been a wreck, going out there, and he was still quite young, but fortunately for him, one of them passed a fitness test, so he didn't have to go. But he did get to the game and see it. But he one of the few times a footballer would rather not be in a European Cup final or something was that. But anyway, that's by the by. So that was another reason I thought I've got to go to St Etienne, because he said, "Oh, it's such a great place." And St Etienne at that time were undefeated in Europe, I believe. The atmosphere of in those days was brilliant at St Etienne, as nearly mostly all standing. So I went. It was in the days before. I was going to say the days before aeroplanes, but it wasn't quite that bad. It was in the days before cheap flights and things. So we had to get a bus, and then the ferry, and then a bus again all the way down to St Etienne, which was quite a trek. But it was wonderful, and the game was fantastic, even though we were showered with all sorts of stuff coming down from the stands, which I won't mention. But at the end of the game, their fans were just really, really magnanimous. The few that could speak English were saying, "Oh, best team ever, best team, you deserve win," because we went 1-0 down and I feared the worst. And I also got to drink in your brother's local there while I was there, so that was a great night out. But it was more to do with the way they played. They were brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Well, all their memories to live forever, really, because you can just say I was there to see us witness, win, because Platini was playing there, wasn't he, for St Etienne, and some big name players.
Johnny Rep, the goalkeeper, he was the French goalkeeper as well. Can't remember his name. Yeah, had quite a few internationals in that side. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, next question is about goals. So your favourite Town goal you've seen live? Once again, Town have scored loads of goals. So it's just hard to just pick one. I'm not picking on you now. This is what I always say. This is what I always say. Because there's been so many goals. So you can have a selection. Go for it.
The thing is, Ross, because of the age thing, I've probably seen some really cracking goals I just simply can't remember. And I probably saw some when I was a kid that were absolutely brilliant. But again, I can't remember. I think, I suppose, if I go to the semi-final of the playoffs, the first leg, when I thought Marcus Stewart scored two goals that were so different, and that I think only he was the sort of player that could have done that. So can I pick two goals instead of one and have those two?
Yep.
Yeah. So that playoff first leg, when a thunderbolt from 30-odd yards and then waltzing round a couple of players and dinking it into the top corner. Whoa, great. Emotionally, it would probably be the first one I saw, of course, which is the blue with the white. See, you can't get away from the age thing. Blue with the white sleeves, of course, which has been reprised a few times, hasn't it? Including the one with the laces, and so that was quite nice. But I always liked the Pioneer shirt with the very thin white stripes on the blue, and the away shirt was black and white with the white with thin black stripes. I thought as a pair of kits, they were probably my favourite, I think.
What do you think of this year's kit? Of course, it's got the badge of UEFA Cup celebrations and stuff.
Kits. Yeah, I do like it. I never particularly liked the badge itself. I mean, I love the badge for what it stands for and what it means and the memories, but I never really liked the badge. But I love the shirt now. It's got that badge and the Europa Cup, whatever it was called, UEFA Cup, wasn't it? Yeah. And it's Adidas, which, whether you like all these big names or not, they are a good quality shirt, aren't they? So yeah, I do like it. Yeah, and the Carers Trust thing adds a nice little thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's better than Magical Vegas because
God, yes,
yeah, it's just daring me. Definitely the first one they had where it was sort of multicolored is like
Yeah, at
No.
least they toned it down when they made it a single colour. But my God, yes, you're right.
That was horrendous.
Well, anyone who listens to the Naked Football Show will be sick to death of me saying the same thing. But bizarrely, the worst moment when I look back at it, but even on the day it was played, I did think this might cost us, was when we knocked Villa out of the cup in the FA Cup in '81, because it was us and Villa going to win that league. And once we'd knocked Villa out of that cup, and everyone was going mad, and I thought, oh God, this could really cost us, because we're still in Europe, and they didn't have anything else to play for once we knocked them out of the FA Cup. We then went on to beat them twice more in the league, and well, you know the rest. They won the league, and then the following season won the European Cup, which is now the Champions League, which I honestly believe Ipswich would have done. And so that was hastily followed by getting knocked out in the semi-final, of course, with a poor power free kick. That Slower Ball, who's a regular on the show, I will tell you, was never a free kick. He's got a Man City fan who's a friend. And Beattie broke his arm, which meant he missed the UEFA Cup final. So in the end, the UEFA Cup final, great though it was sort of a what's the word? Not booby prize, the other one. Got some editing to do now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
So was it a consolation prize? That's it.
Yeah.
The UEFA Cup was more a consolation prize in the end. So bizarrely, I'd say knocking Villa out of the cup that year was the worst thing we could have done. And that's even while I was at the game, and everyone was really up, buzzing, because it is the FA Cup, and that was a massive tournament in those days. I still had this nagging feeling that it could cost us, and it did, because we ended up playing 60 or 66 games. It was something ridiculous. A squad of 13 players in essence, whereas Villa played hardly anything. And I won't let it lie.
Yes, do not blame you.
I suppose the St Etienne one really for me, but my favourite sort of 2 weeks was obviously the semi-finals of the playoffs and the final, of course. And of course, the FA Cup final. Fancy me forgetting that. I mean, that was pretty awesome as well, of course. And it was a one-off. And then, the next day around the Cornhill, there's some fantastic pictures I've dug out of the fans sitting on what the Lion's Head or whatever it was called, the Golden Lion, which is Weatherspoons and whatever it is, sitting on top of the roofs and everything. But yeah, I think though that the playoff semi-finals and the final as a package, I think, were probably the highlight, really, because it was so exciting. Yeah. But too many memories, Ross, as you suggest.
I'm sorry to bring that up, but well, Graham, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I want you to plug, of course, your radio show that you do every week. So go ahead.
Well, it's the Naked Football Show. I just set it up, I think, going back to your theme of the show, 13 years ago. It was a radio show. It's before podcasts. There was a couple around, but not many football ones at all. And so I was working on ICR, and just someone suggested football, and I suggested, why don't we have a football show? And they said, well, only if you run it, because at the time I don't think there was any Town fans involved. So I thought, okay. And then at the time I thought, well, set it up for the fans rather than for celebrities, because everything you saw on telly in those days, obviously anyone on radio or anything was interviewing players, managers, etc. So I thought, well, get a chance for fans to come on the radio and in our case moan incessantly. But and that's been going like that for 13 years, and so it's still for fans. Rarely have anyone but football fans. We'll have obviously journalists. We'll have them as long as they're Town fans. It's still got to be, it's for the fans. So it's now obviously you've got these things called Listen Again, which I suppose you can call it a podcast as well. So but yeah, that's it. But Naked Footy.
Graham, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining me.
Cheers, Ross. Thank you very much again. See you soon, hopefully. Maybe over a pint, and maybe watching the women or something that's going to bring joy to our dull sad lives.
Please, we just need something.